Welcome back, my ghoulish darlings, to the Eldritch Hour. I'm your host, Lilith Fury, the Eldritch Queen of Horror, here to guide you into the eerie corners of cinema, literature, and the supernatural. Tonight's topic is one of the most iconic and debated works in horror history, The Shining, Stephen King's chilling novel, Stanley Kubrick's legendary film adaptation, and the often overlooked made-for-TV miniseries all bring something unique to the table. While Kubrick's version is undeniably a masterpiece of mood and atmosphere, I know this may be controversial, but I actually prefer the 1997 miniseries. It stays much truer to King's original novel, offering greater depth to the characters, a more emotionally resonant story. But we'll get into all that. So grab your key to room 237 and let's explore the haunted halls of the Overlook Hotel. The Shining began as a deeply personal story for Stephen King. In the late 1970s, King and his wife Tabitha stayed at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado during its off-season. The nearly empty hotel and its eerie atmosphere sparked King's imagination. That night, he had a dream about his son being chased through the hotel halls by a fire hose. He woke up, smoked a cigarette, and began outlining what would become The Shining. The novel, published in 1977, is often seen as a reflection of King's own struggles with alcoholism and his fears about being a husband and father. It's not just a ghost story, it's a story about a man unraveling, the fragility of family, and the horrors of addiction. Stanley Kubrick's 1980 adaptation of The Shining is one of the most celebrated horror films of all times, but also one of the most divisive, especially for Stephen King. Kubrick took massive liberties with the source material, shifting the focus from Jack Torrance's humanity to the Overlook Hotel's sinister power. Jack Nicholson was cast as Jack Torrance, delivering an unforgettable performance, full of manic energy and simmering menace. Shelley Duvall played Wendy, a portrayal that King famously criticized as being too weak and hysterical. The movie's Danny, played by Danny Lloyd, remains iconic, especially for his chilling whisper of red rum. Kubrick's meticulous direction turned the Overlook into a character itself, filmed primarily on elaborate sets in England and the Timberland Lodge in Oregon. The hotel's sprawling, impossible architecture was designed to disorient viewers. The Steadicam shots through the hallways, the haunting score, and the unforgettable visuals like the elevator of blood and the Grady twins cemented the film's place in cinematic history. But it's worth noting, while visually stunning, Kubrick's version removed much of the emotional core and depth of the novel, transforming Jack into a villain from the start, rather than a man trying to overcome his demons. Stephen King's dislike of Kubrick's adaptation is well documented. In the novel, Jack Torrance is a deeply flawed, but ultimately sympathetic character. His descent into madness is gradual, driven by both the Overlook's influence and his own internal struggles. In Kubrick's film, Jack's already on edge from the start, making his transformation less tragic and more inevitable. Wendy in the novel is strong and resourceful and protective of Danny, while in the film she's portrayed as passive and almost helpless. And then there's Dick Halloran, the kindly chef who shares Danny's shining. In the book, Halloran plays a critical role in saving Wendy and Danny. Kubrick, however, shockingly kills him off as soon as he arrives at the hotel, rendering his journey pointless. In response to Kubrick's film, Stephen King collaborated with director Mick Garris to create a three-part miniseries in 1997. King's involvement ensured the adaptation stayed true to his vision. Steven Weber was cast as Jack Torrance, bringing a much more nuanced performance. You could see Jack's love for his family and his internal struggle, which made his descent into madness all the more heartbreaking. Rebecca De Mornay's Wendy was far stronger and more determined than Duvall's version. Cortland Mead portrayed Danny, and while his performance wasn't as iconic as Danny Lloyd's, the miniseries delved deeper into Danny's psychic abilities and his connection to the Overlook. One of my favorite aspects of the miniseries is how it handled Jack's redemption. In the final moments, Jack breaks free of the Overlook's control just long enough to sacrifice himself to save Wendy and Danny. It's a poignant moment that adds layers to his character, making him more than just a villain. And of course, the miniseries gave Dick Halloran the role that he deserved, allowing him to survive and help the Torrance family escape. While the miniseries didn't have Kubrick's visual flair, its faithfulness to the novel and its emotional depth make it a must-watch for fans of Stephen King's work. Both versions of The Shining showcased impressive effects for their time. Kubrick's use of practical effects, such as the iconic blood elevator, is legendary. The hedge mage in the film replaced the novel's moving topiary animals, a change that worked beautifully for the cinematic medium. The miniseries, on the other hand, attempted to recreate the topiary animals with 1990s CGIs, which has not aged particularly well. However, the series excelled in building tension through atmospheric storytelling and clever use of the Overlook's haunted history. The Shining has left an indelible mark on pop culture. Kubrick's film has inspired countless parodies and homages, from The Simpsons to Ready Player One. Phrases like, "Here's Johnny," and "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" have become iconic. The novel and film have also been subject to psychological studies, exploring themes of isolation, addiction, and family dynamics. The Overlook Hotel itself has become a symbol of haunted spaces, and the idea of a malevolent location influencing its inhabitants is a reoccurring trope in horror. In 2019, Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep, based on King's sequel to The Shining, bridged the gap between King's novel and Kubrick's film. It explored the lingering trauma of Danny Torrance, now an adult, and provided a satisfying continuation of the story. Flanagan's work honored both King's vision and Kubrick's aesthetic, showing that these two interpretations can coexist and complement each other. The Shining is a story that continues to captivate, whether you prefer the novel's emotional depth, Kubrick's cinematic brilliance, or the miniseries' faithful adaptation. So, my darlings, where do you stand on this debate? Do you prefer Kubrick's moody masterpiece or the heartfelt, faithful retelling of the miniseries? And which version of Jack Torrance resonates more with you? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and follow for more spine-tingling explorations into the world of horror. Until next time, keep your axes sharp and your typewriters ready. Sweet screams.